A beautiful English rose and a highly ambitious man from the East fell in love so quickly that it seemed like something out of a book. But behind the glamour was a story of huge personal loss, clashing cultures, and change. This is the story of a British nobleman who fell in love with a Muslim boy. There were a lot of questions about Jemima Goldsmith's choice to marry the popular Pakistani cricketer Imran Khan, become a Muslim, and move to Pakistan. Was it love, duty, or a leap of faith as a child? Did this love story between two different cultures make her happy in the end, or did it cost her something that changed her forever? We'll answer this today. And now look at their family after 28 years. Let's go back to the beginning. The first meetup and quick startup. In 1995, Jemima Goldsmith met Imran Khan for the first time on a cold spring evening in London. Jemima, a 21-year-old British heiress from a noble family, was the picture of understated grace. Her honey blonde hair fell over her shoulders, and she laughed quickly and brightly. There was a sense of the Goldsmith family about her. Money, custom, and power from the past. On the other hand, Imran Khan was a folk hero in Pakistan. He was the leader of his cricket team and led them to victory in the 1992 World Cup. He was a charismatic man who had gone to Oxford and spoke both the language of the elite and the rhythm of the streets. It was almost as well known about him as it was about how good he was at cricket. People in London talked about his relationships with aristocrats and debutantes, which added to his mystery. But behind the Playboy image was a man who was complex, driven, and becoming more and more consumed by a vision of changing Pakistan's political and social scene. This fateful meeting was destined to go down in history. As soon as their eyes met, there was a clear spark between them. He was 42 years old at the time and was enthralled by Jemima's intelligence, her wit that sparkled like fine crystal, and her openness, which felt like a breath of fresh air in the stuffy world of high society. Jemima, on the other hand, was interested in Imran because he was very fiery and talked about faith, kindness, and justice in a way that felt both old-fashioned and new. By their second date, Khan had already made the bold move to ask her to marry him. A lot of people thought it was rash and careless. After all, Jemima had just turned 16 2 years before meeting this man, who was more than twice her age and was known for having a lot of high-class affairs. But for Imran, this wasn't just a flash of inspiration. At that point in his life, he wanted more than just a friend. He wanted a partner who would be there for him as he went from being a cricket hero to a political firebrand. Not only did he think Jemima was beautiful, but he also thought she was quiet, strong, had good morals, and might be able to help him change the world. When it came to Jemima in London, the press went crazy. The news stories wondered if this was a real love match or just a convenient partnership. Some people even questioned Jemima's goals, calling her a naive young woman who was swept off her feet by a foreigner with a silver tongue. In Pakistan, people reacted to the news with a mix of respect, doubt, and outright dislike. For Khan's fans, it was like a fairy tale love story, showing how popular he is with everyone. Critics saw it as going against traditional ideals. Not even their families were safe from the pressures. Sir James Goldsmith wasn't sure about the match and joked that Khan might be a good first mate for his daughter. This is Lady Annabel Goldsmith. It looked like Jemima's mother was more on board, but she may have been quietly wondering if her daughter, who was just barely out of puberty, was ready to deal with the complicated cultural and political situations in Pakistan. On Khan's side, too, there was worry. His sisters were worried about whether Jemima would be a good match because they cared about family pride and tradition. But during those first weeks, when things were very busy, those worries didn't seem important. Marriage and problems in the beginning. The wedding of Imran Khan and Jemima Goldsmith in May 1995 was a mix of the grandeur of high society and the rich customs of Pakistan. The big event was a private traditional nikah ceremony that took place at the Ritz Hotel in Paris. A small group of close family members and friends came to the nikah. With her head modestly covered and dressed in a highly embroidered white and gold outfit, Jemima looked every bit the traditional bride. Khan, on the other hand, looked very serious in a simple white shalwar kameez. The preacher reading from the Quran was very serious, and when Jemima softly repeated the Arabic words of the marriage contract, she did something that not many women from her background would ever do. This was an action that Jemima took to start living her new life. Imran gave her the name Hakka, which comes from ancient Arabic and means truthful. This was a nod to how honest she was and the path she was about to take. After the religious ceremony, they had a civil ceremony in Richmond, which was attended by British aristocrats and famous people. The celebrations finished with a fancy midsummer ball at Ormley Lodge, the Goldsmith family home. Princess Diana attended the ball, which was a beautiful event in the English sun. As a close friend of Jemima's, she offered her support during what must have been a very hard time. Diana knew better than most the stresses of marrying into a famous family and being closely watched by the public. She told Jemima, "You must find your voice in the storm and never let it drown you." It was said that Jemima would come back often in the years that followed. After the party was over and all the champagne glasses were empty, Jemima moved to Lahore with her life in her bags. When she got to the city, the smell of jasmine in the nights and the noise of rickshaws and street vendors made her feel very welcome. It was very different from the quiet elegance of the Goldsmith farms and the steady beat of London life. She started to learn Urdu. At first, the language and writing system were hard for her, but she was determined to be able to talk to people without using translators. She switched from her sleek Western clothes to traditional Pakistani shellwork kameezes made of soft cottons and rich silks. Khan's whole extended family lived in the huge Zaman Park house where she moved in. This is a very common way of life in Pakistan. But not how Jemima was raised. Living with the Khans taught them a lot about conservative morals. Imran's sisters, especially Aliyah and Uzma, were in charge of keeping traditions alive. And Jemima often had to find her way through a maze of expectations, like hosting family dinners, keeping an eye on housekeepers, and being as modest as a politician's wife is supposed to be. People at the dinner table would often talk about politics, faith, and the future of Pakistan. To make things more difficult for Jemima, her British accent and Western schooling sometimes seemed like invisible obstacles. During quiet times, she missed the comfort of English tea, her friends' sarcastic jokes, and the freedom to say what she thought without worrying about being judged. The changes Jemima went through weren't just on the outside. She studied the Quran and Islamic history in depth and sometimes went to talks at Lahore's Badshahi Mosque after becoming a Muslim, which was a very personal decision. But no matter how hard she tried, Pakistan's conservatives saw her as an outsider, a Western woman pretending to be from another society she would never fully understand. At the same time, British newspapers had shocking stories. They laughed at Jemima, calling her a lost noblewoman stuck in a gold cage because she had gone from being an heiress to a housewife. Khan also had a hard time getting used to it. His plans to run for office were getting stronger. He was building the foundations for his political party, Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, PTI, which wanted to take on the powerful political class. Jemima spoke out for Khan's political ideas and Pakistan's image in the West without being officially authorized to do so. Still, the stress of public life, family obligations, and the attention on their relationship put a strain on their relationship. Jemima didn't give up, though. "I'm not just a wife here," she told a friend one time. "I want to be a part of something bigger." At least for a while, her love for Imran and her sense of purpose were enough to keep her going through the hard parts of being Hakka Khan. In November 1996, they had their first boy, Suleiman Isa Khan. It was a very happy time for them. Jemima chose the name Suleiman after the wise King Solomon in Islamic and Judeo-Christian traditions. Isa chose the name Jesus from the Quran because she saw a spiritual connection in her life. They did have a big change in their marriage that same year, though. Imran, who has always felt like he was on the right path, held a big rally at Lahore's Minar-e-Pakistan to officially start his political party, Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, PTI. Tens of thousands of people came to the event, and their chants of Naya Pakistan, or New Pakistan, could be heard all night. Imran stood tall in front of the statue and said it was his job to fight corruption and restore the country's morals. Sitting in the front row in a simple white shalwar kameez, Jemima clapped along, but her smile had a hint of doubt in it. Afterward, she told a friend that she felt like she was watching a play where she couldn't understand a word. As Imran got more involved in politics and started going all over Pakistan for rallies, fundraisers, and strategy meetings, Jemima felt more and more alone. Zaman Park, which used to be a safe place, got colder, and talks with Imran became short and tense. She wrote this in a letter to her mother, Lady Annabel Goldsmith. "It's as if he's married to the cause now." Even though she tried, Jemima's involvement in Pakistani politics was often seen with doubt. She worked hard for things she cared about, like women's health and helping kids learn to read and write, but sometimes it backfired. Some columnists praised her kindness when she went to a gathering in Sindh for flood victims wearing a simple dupatta and almost no makeup, while others said she was just trying to make a political point. Someone wrote in Naiwak that Mrs. Khan should know she is not a princess in her own country. There are girls in Pakistan who deserve to be in the spotlight. Even with friends, she was quietly judged. Politburo wives would smile at her at fancy meals, but they would whisper that she was too brave, too outspoken, and too Western. Jemima's strength showed in small, defiant ways throughout it all. For example, she insisted on speaking Urdu at home, went with Imran to campaign events in rural areas despite the heat and dust, and kept writing stories for The Guardian that gave a skeptical Western audience a more human view of Pakistan. She wrote a piece called A Country of Contradictions one time. In it, she said, "I tried so hard to reconcile problems in the marriage and more problems." By the late 1990s, the cracks in Jemima Goldsmith and Imran Khan's marriage were painfully clear, not just to those close to the couple but also to a whole country that was watching with interest. The public's attention became more focused and intrusive as Imran's political goals grew. A group of right-wing columnists and political critics, mostly from religious and nationalist parties, accused Jemima of being a secret agent of a Zionist plot in 1999. This caused a huge controversy. Even though the claims seemed crazy at first, they caught on in Pakistan's tense political environment. In the mosques of Lahore, angry clerics called for her to lose her Pakistani passport. Jemima was suddenly seen as an intruder, even though she had quietly become a Pakistani citizen in 1998. It was a terrible irony. Even though she had left her old life behind, worn the shalwar kameez, raised her children in the Islamic faith, and devoted herself to Pakistan's causes, she was now called a criminal. To make things worse, Jemima got involved in a different dispute that would really put her marriage to the test. In the winter of 1999, she was accused of trying to sneak hundreds of years-old tiles from Lahore to London. If she had been caught, this would have been against Pakistan's strict laws on cultural property. Even though the claims were weak, they caused a media storm. Customs officers said they had found crates at the Allama Iqbal International Airport in Lahore. That included items that were important to history. Even though Jemima claimed that the tiles were legally bought and were meant to be decorations for her London home, the damage had already been done. Politicians from different parties who wanted to hurt Imran's reputation used the incident to show that the elite can get away with crimes. Since the media was already biased because of the earlier Zionist claims, they made her out to be a careless foreigner who didn't respect Pakistan's history. After the attacks, Jemima was so tired that she ran away to London with her kids for a while to get away from the suffocating environment. In a rare interview during this time, she said that she found it hard to handle the fallout because he was trying to protect his wife and further his political goals at the same time. His political life was a mess because his party, PTI, was still getting started and there were disagreements within it as well as pressure from outside sources. A lot of people who supported Naya Pakistan would yell chants at public events. But there were also rumors that Jemima wasn't being honest. The strain between private and public life got too high to handle. There was a change in Jemima's mental health. She told him that she had trouble sleeping, felt like she was being watched everywhere, and was very lonely when Imran was gone for days at a time. The stress showed in the way they talked to each other. Where they used to joke around and enjoy each other's company, they now had long pauses and heated debates about politics, culture, and how to raise their children. Jemima later reflected, "I married a man who belonged to the people, but in the end, I couldn't compete with the country." By the end of 1999, the relentless scrutiny, legal challenges, and growing emotional distance had carved a deep fracture into their marriage. Jemima, who had once hoped to make a home in Pakistan, began to question whether the sacrifices she had made, her identity, her comfort, her sense of belonging, had been in vain. Of course, Imran was not immune to such politically motivated attacks either. While Jemima Goldsmith bore the brunt of xenophobic accusations, Imran Khan too was not spared. Perhaps the most notorious among these was the Sita White case, a scandal that followed him like a shadow throughout the late 1990s and into the early 2000s. The allegation that he had fathered a child, Tyrion White, out of wedlock with British heiress Sita White, was repeatedly weaponized by his critics, especially in moments when he seemed poised to gain political ground. While paternity was never legally contested in Pakistan and had no direct bearing on his political platform, the controversy was routinely dredged up in public discourse, not just to question his morality, but to undermine his political authenticity. Both Imran and Jemima were treated as proxies in a much larger battlefield, where politics devoured privacy and distorted facts to suit whatever narrative was most convenient. These attacks weren't just slanders. They were calculated efforts to destabilize a political movement, rattle a marriage, and delegitimize a family trying to exist in two cultural realities at once. And both Jemima and Imran had to walk that tightrope. Their reputations constantly subjected to the shifting winds of media bias, political rivalry, and public misunderstanding. Impact on children and family dynamics. By the early 2000s, Jemima and Imran's family life had become a complex web of public fascination and private strain, with their two sons, Sulaiman Isa Khan, born in November 1996, and Qasim Khan, born in April 1999, caught in the eye of the storm. These boys, who should have been simply children enjoying the carefree joys of youth, instead found themselves symbolically tethered to the tug of war between two vastly different worlds. The elite drawing rooms of London's Notting Hill, where their maternal relatives spoke in clipped British accents and discussed art, politics, and culture over tea. And the sprawling lawns of Zaman Park in Lahore, where their father's supporters gathered for impassioned political rallies. Under banners proclaiming the dream of Naya Pakistan. Jemima tried to shield her sons from the relentless glare of the media, but in a culture where family is inseparable from a public figure's identity, that proved impossible. During Eid celebrations in Lahore, photographers would capture the boys in traditional kurta de pajamas, prompting commentary on whether they were being raised as proper Pakistani Muslims or simply playing dress-up for the cameras. At the same time, images of them attending events in London alongside their mother wearing smart blazers and jeans fed into the British media's fascination with their hybrid existence. Jemima, in a rare moment of vulnerability, once wrote in her private journal, "I want the boys to feel at home in both worlds, but some days it feels like they belong to neither." Imran's deepening political ambitions only added to the complexity. As PTI gained momentum in the early 2000s, the household atmosphere grew increasingly politicized. Jemima, meanwhile, found herself becoming more of a single parent in practice, managing the boys' schooling, health, and emotional well-being while Imran was absorbed in the political trenches. The tension between public duty and private life strained the family dynamic. Suleiman, especially, began to sense the weight of expectations. In a school essay written at the Lyceum in Lahore, he once described his father as hero for the country, but a stranger at home. Moreover, the cultural contradictions in their upbringing became more pronounced. While Jemima tried to instill a sense of British manners and intellectual curiosity, ensuring her boys read books beyond the usual school curriculum, such as Shakespeare, Kipling, and even Urdu poetry. There were moments when the disconnect between their two worlds was impossible to bridge. At family dinners in Lahore, relatives would remind the boys to recite their Quranic verses properly. While in London, Jemima's aristocratic friends would encourage them to engage in debate over classical philosophy and environmental activism. Jemima worried constantly about their sense of belonging. Writing in a letter to her mother, Lady Annabel Goldsmith, "They are growing up in a world where they are both too Pakistani and too British. And some days, I don't know how to guide them." The situation reached a critical point when Jemima began receiving threats from political opponents, including veiled warnings that her children's safety could be at risk if Imran continued to challenge the establishment. It was a terrifying reality that forced her to reconsider whether she and the boys could continue living in Pakistan. The family's once hopeful narrative of bridging cultures had soured into a cautionary tale about the price of idealism, and Jemima, despite her best efforts, began to realize that raising her children in such a turbulent environment was an impossible burden. By the time Suleiman and Qasim were old enough to understand the controversies swirling around their family, the cracks in the marriage, and the strains on the children's well-being had become too deep to ignore. For Jemima, the choice between staying in a world where her sons were pawns in a larger political game and returning to the familiarity of her own cultural roots was no longer just about her marriage. It was about their survival. The couple officially divorced in June 2004 after 9 years of marriage. The couple separated amicably and both cited difficulty in adapting to the political life in Pakistan as the key reason. Despite the end of their marriage, they remained on good terms, with Jemima continuing to publicly support Imran Khan's political career achievements and contributions. Far beyond the socialite image that once followed her, Jemima has meticulously crafted a legacy rooted in cultural bridge building and fearless exploration of difficult subjects. Her journey into the world of film and television began in earnest with the founding of Instinct Productions in 2015, a company that quickly earned a reputation for producing hard-hitting documentaries and compelling narrative films with a focus on social justice and political transparency. Among her notable achievements, Jemima's work on the Clinton affair stands out not only for its journalistic rigor, but for the nuanced way it revisited a scandal that had long been oversimplified by mainstream media. The 4-part documentary series, aired on A&E, earned Jemima an Emmy nomination in 2018. This success was soon followed by her involvement in the gripping and heartbreaking Sky Atlantic and HBO documentary on Adnan Syed, whose case had captivated audiences worldwide following the popularity of Serial, the groundbreaking podcast. The documentary's exploration of justice and memory was hailed for its balanced perspective, earning Jemima another Emmy. Her work extended beyond documentaries with her role as a producer on the Golden Globe and Emmy-nominated series Impeachment, American Crime Story in 2021. This high-profile series, which delved into the scandal surrounding Monica Lewinsky and President Bill Clinton, showcased Jemima's ability to blend dramatic storytelling with historical accuracy, highlighting her versatile talent in both factual and scripted content. Yet, it was with What's Love Got to Do with It, a romantic comedy released in 2022, that Jemima demonstrated her range by producing a film that was both critically acclaimed and commercially successful. The movie's sharp yet heartfelt script, along with its refreshing take on cultural identity and romance, won the Best Comedy Award at the Rome Film Festival in 2022, and went on to sweep 4 awards at the 2023 National Film Awards. Jemima's dedication to highlighting social issues is further evident in her production of As Far as They Run, a poignant documentary short that received an Emmy nomination for its sensitive portrayal of children with intellectual disabilities living in rural Pakistan. Jemima also ventured into the burgeoning world of podcasting with A Muslim and a Jew Go There, a series launched in the late 2010s that quickly gained critical acclaim. The podcast's premise, two friends from different faith backgrounds engaging in candid, respectful, and often deeply personal conversations about religion, politics, and identity, resonated with audiences craving nuanced dialogue in an increasingly polarized world. The British Podcast Awards recognized the show with a nomination in the News and Current Affairs category, a testament to its impact and relevance. Continuing this momentum, the podcast's 2024 season received praise for maintaining civility and thought-provoking content, marking it as a rare example of earnest, intelligent discourse in the digital media landscape. Jemima Khan has also forayed into journalism and editorial work. During her years living in Pakistan and navigating the often complex intersections of culture, politics, and identity, she became a prominent voice in major UK publications, lending her nuanced perspective to the Sunday Times, The Observer, and The Independent. One of the defining moments in Jemima's journalism career came in 2008, when she secured an exclusive interview with then-President Pervez Musharraf. She challenged Musharraf directly on issues such as governance, terrorism, and civil rights, drawing out candid responses that shed light on the complexities of his regime. Between 2007 and 2008, Jemima served as a columnist for the Sunday Telegraph, where her voice carried significant weight in shaping public discourse on Pakistan and South Asia. Her columns during this time often explored the geopolitical shifts post 9/11, the rise of extremism, and the ongoing struggle for women's rights in Pakistan. In 2008, she expanded her editorial scope by joining British Vogue as a contributing editor, a role she held until 2011. There, Jemima's influence transcended politics into the realm of culture and fashion, where she used the platform to advocate for causes such as women's empowerment, education, and humanitarian aid. Her editorial career reached a new height in 2011 when she became the European editor-at-large for Vanity Fair. This prestigious role allowed Jemima to contribute in-depth profiles, investigative pieces, and cultural commentary to one of the most influential magazines worldwide. Perhaps one of the most telling endorsements of Jemima's editorial prowess came from Nick Cohen, a respected British journalist and commentator who praised her tenure at the New Statesman Journal, where she also held an editorial role. Called her the Observer's best editor during that period, highlighting her editorial vision and ability to nurture impactful journalism. But that's not all. Jemima Khan's commitment to philanthropy and activism has been a defining aspect of her life. Back in 1998, when she was still married to Imran Khan, driven by a desire to create tangible opportunities for Pakistani women, she launched a unique fashion house that married the rich traditions of Eastern embroidery with contemporary Western design aesthetics. Jemima's goal was to employ impoverished women from Lahore's underprivileged neighborhoods, providing them with a steady income and a platform to showcase their exquisite craftsmanship to an international audience. The enterprise, based in a modest workshop in Gulberg, became a symbol of cross-cultural collaboration and social enterprise, with every garment carefully handcrafted to preserve centuries-old techniques. Importantly, proceeds from the fashion house were directed to support the Shaukat Khanum Memorial Cancer Hospital in Lahore, a pioneering institution founded by her then-husband Imran Khan. This hospital was Pakistan's first comprehensive cancer treatment facility, offering free care to thousands of patients. And Jemima's initiative helped sustain its vital work. However, the peaceful momentum of this project was abruptly disrupted. Geopolitical tensions escalated and Pakistan faced widespread instability. The ensuing turmoil made it increasingly difficult to maintain the fashion house's operations, forcing its closure. But Jemima's early efforts left a lasting legacy in social entrepreneurship in Pakistan. Beyond this early venture, Jemima continued to leverage her visibility and creativity for charitable causes. In 2009, she modeled for the prestigious Aristocrat and was invited to co-design their spring collection. The proceeds from the collection were donated to UNICEF. During her marriage to Imran Khan, she also co-founded a refugee camp dedicated to Afghan refugees fleeing decades of conflict and instability. Located near the Pakistan-Afghanistan border, the camp offered shelter, education, and basic healthcare to thousands of displaced families. She frequently visited the camp, listened to the refugees, and worked closely with international NGOs to secure funding and supplies. Politically, Jemima emerged as a vocal critic of Western military interventions in the Middle East, particularly the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. In 2003, at a notable anti-war rally in London's Trafalgar Square, Jemima addressed thousands of protesters, stating, "True peace cannot be achieved through bombs and occupation. It demands understanding, justice, and respect for human dignity." Additionally, Jemima was a staunch supporter of freedom of information movements, championing transparency and accountability in governance. She lent her voice to campaigns against censorship and for greater press freedom in Pakistan and beyond. Recognizing the power of an informed public in holding leaders accountable, Jemima collaborated with organizations promoting independent journalism and internet freedom. In interviews, she often spoke about the importance of breaking down barriers to information, noting, "Maintain a cordial, respectful relationship, far removed from the romantic turbulence and media storms of their past." Despite their divorce in 2004, they have consistently spoken kindly of each other in public. Jemima especially has remained vocal in her defense of Imran on several occasions, including during politically motivated controversies or legal challenges in Pakistan. Their mutual priority has always been their two sons, Suleiman and Qasim, whom Jemima raised primarily in the UK, but in short remained connected to their Pakistani heritage. Imran, meanwhile, continued his political ascent, eventually becoming Prime Minister of Pakistan in 2018, while Jemima focused on her creative and philanthropic pursuits. Though they live separate lives on different continents, their shared history still links them, especially through their children. Khan served a term of 3.5 years before being dismissed through a vote of no confidence by his opponents who courted his political allies. Following this, he was charged with hundreds of bogus charges and jailed. Through it all, Jemima has spoken of their marriage with a tone that blends wistfulness with clarity, acknowledging both the depth of their connection and the reasons it couldn't last. She has described Imran as a brilliant man, but admitted the loneliness and public pressure of life in Pakistan were too great a cost for her long-term happiness. Imran, on his part, has credited her often for the sacrifices she made and the grace with which she navigated an unfamiliar world. It was a romance not meant to be, but its effects linger on even today. Well, that's it for now. Thanks for watching.